What is going on, guys? Noah Brewer here, back again with another video. Sorry about my voice, I'm a little bit congested, but it's not that big of a deal because today I'm bringing you a very interesting case study where we'll be talking about the entire process of how we took a store from 0 to 35K in just 22 days. So we're going to be going over a little bit about the product research, how we came across this product. We're also going to talk about the initial product testing method, as it's a little bit different than what we normally do and what I've talked about on previous videos. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring in my manager Duncan on a phone call so that he can talk to you about the scaling strategy that actually went into, crossing $1,000 per day, $2,000, $3,000, and even crossing $4,000 per day at one point. So this is going to be a really exciting video, and I'm super excited to bring it to you, and I hope you get a ton of value out of it. So before we get into the product research and testing phase, let's talk about the results so that you can actually see what happened. So you can see that this product was launched in early December. It is now early January, and you can see the graph is from the 1st to the 22nd, and you can see that around December 3rd is when the product started making sales, and it very quickly scaled to about $1,000 per day. Usually within like 3 to 5 days after testing a product, it's pretty easy to get it to $1,000 per day. As I described in my ebook. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend making sure that you check that out. And you can see that it consistently stayed at 1 to 1.5 thousand per day for a couple weeks, and then you can see right around December 15th, there was a little bit of aggressive scaling going on where day after day the sales were going up by $300 to $500, eventually leading to an over $4,000 day on this store. And then it kind of trickled up and down. We'll get into a little bit about why we believe it trickled up and down. I believe there was a lot of testing of new strategies, so a lot of things were like being turned on and then turned off the next day if they didn't work that good, and it drove a lot of revenue. But we'll talk about the profits here as well. So it might be a little bit hard for you to see, but I have a screenshot of the ad account on this exact time frame, so you can see that there was a total ad spend of $12,626 across 2 different campaigns, a total reach or impressions of 5.7 million people, bunch of add to carts, and I don't know, like 1,500 add to carts, 1,500 checkouts, and a total of like 540 purchases, which led to a 1.78 ROAS tracked in the ad account. Now, there is a massive difference between the amount of actual revenue and the amount of revenue that shows in the ad account. I would assume that this is some sort of tracking issue. We don't know exactly what the tracking issue is, but it's pretty normal at this point to see this type of, tracking difference. You can see that there's actually 825 orders if you look on the Shopify screenshot, as opposed to just 543 on the TikTok ads screenshot. But so there's like a 30%, 20% difference on the actual tracking. But you can kind of look at each ad group in each campaign and assume that there's 20 to 30% more purchases on each one to kind of help you make your decisions and make sure that you're not losing money on your ads. So you can see a total revenue of $35,199 during this 22-day window, total ad spend of $12,626, and the product cost for these 825 orders was around $14,000. So what we calculated was obviously just an estimate based on the average price per unit times the average orders. And that left us with a net profit on $35,000 of $8,400, which is a 24% net margin. So definitely not outside of the realm of what's realistic. Like, it's not insanely good, but this is kind of what I would say is average for most dropshipping stores that see success with TikTok ads, for us at least. So one thing I want to say is there's going to be a lot of things gone over in this case study that you might not be fully familiar with, and I want to make sure that you get the most value out of this possible. So if you don't have me on Instagram, I would highly encourage you going to my Instagram page. It's at Noah D. Brewer. I'll pop it on screen right here. And feel free to, send me a DM, watch my Instagram stories, because I'm constantly posting new content, and I try to get back to every single person that DMs me, especially if it's somebody asking a question about one of my videos. So make sure that, if you want to get the most out of these trainings, you're actually engaging with it and you're asking questions when you have questions, just to make sure that you fully understand the concepts and the strategies that I talk about. So product research. This product was found literally just by scrolling through TikTok. If you've seen any of my product research videos in the past, then you would know that scrolling through TikTok is pretty much the main way that we find winning products on TikTok ads. Specifically here, we saw it on the For You page. Other influencers and people were going viral making videos of this specific product, so we pretty much mimicked the videos that they made that went viral and moved it into advertising and tied it to a specific product. Another thing to note is that this is a novelty style product. It doesn't really solve a specific problem, but when people see the ad that goes along with it, it's really, really cool. So it almost creates like this urgency to want it, whereas, you know, buying the product doesn't solve a specific problem. It's more of a novelty that people want because of the ad. And it is also very important to mention that this was a very specific trend. I don't want to say which one, but it's a photography trend that happened on TikTok where it just made things look really, really cool and really, really fun. So it was what I would consider a UMO, or something that you would want to take advantage of from an angle of like a unique market opportunity where you spot a trend and then you tie it to a specific product. And with those two mixture, you know, if you mix a trend with a winning product, pretty much works almost every single time. I've talked about this in many of my product research trainings, how to take advantage of unique market opportunities. If you haven't seen any of them, highly recommend going to my channel and scrolling down to where you can find multiple product research trainings that I've made where I talk about the copycat method, the pioneer method, how to actually find products on TikTok, and then moving deeper into how to actually find UMOs and take advantage of them and go about them the right way, because this product was 100% a UMO following the copycat method, and honestly it's the best way to find products, and you can see why once you start understanding the UMO concept, why it works so good. I would highly recommend watching those videos and getting your mind wrapped around the idea of UMOs. So it seems like I am starting to lose my voice, so apologies if I sound a little bit weird. I got water right next to me, so hopefully it doesn't get any worse. But let's talk about the initial testing strategy and how we structured the initial campaign to bring the best results, and how we were able to transition into scaling, and why we were able to get to $1,000 per day so quickly. So we started off with 5 ad groups. That is the same as my other testing strategy that I talk about on my channel, but this time we did a hybrid of no interest and interest targeting. So for example, 2 of the ad sets had no interest and 3 of them had, you know, 1 interest in them. So it's kind of like a hybrid, right? It's not fully no interest and it's not fully interest targeting. 18 plus, male and female, obviously targeting US and Canada. Now, one concept that I'm not sure if you're familiar with, because we haven't talked about it on this channel yet, and that is day parting. It basically makes it so that your ad only spends during specific hours of the day, and for this particular test, we did 10 a.m. to 12 a.m., so that is a 14-hour window, right? So 10 a.m. to midnight pretty much is when the ads were spending. So we weren't getting ads spending at night on our time zone at all. $20 budgets, optimizing for lowest cost. So pretty much everything is the same as my initial method, except we did a hybrid, no interest with interest, and the day parting. So those are really the only things that are super different. We also did 3 different creatives under each ad group. So the 3 creatives under each ad group were the same for all 5 ad groups, but they were 3 different creative. To give you an idea, they were all different angles. One of them was kind of like a summertime vibe with a girl in the video. The other one was a wintertime vibe with a girl in the video. And the other one was kind of like a dude bar scene. I don't know the best way to say it, but it's just kind of like that party scene for a guy. So, you know, something along those lines. So obviously, pretty much with this budget, you're going to be spending $100 on the first day of your test. And right then and there, you're pretty much going to know if the product is a winner or not. And you can see early on, if we go back to the screenshot where we took of the sales, on the very first day, I believe it was December 3rd, there was an instant like $200 or $300 in sales. And then right after that, it spiked up to $1,000 per day. So I'll have Duncan talk a little bit about what exactly he did to get it up to $1,000 per day, and then maintain that for a couple weeks, and then get it up to $4,000 per day. But for now, just know this is the exact strategy that we used when launching it. And this would be a great time if you don't know what any of this stuff means, or if you're having trouble picturing it, this would be a great time to go ahead and send me a DM on Instagram, because I could explain and show you how we did this further. It would just take too much time, and I don't really think it's necessary, because most people are going to know exactly how to launch a product just by seeing what's on the screen right now. So I'm going to invite Duncan in here. It's probably going to be through a Zoom call, so apologies if the audio is not very good, but I want him to talk about exactly how he got it to 1,000 per day, and then how he got it from 1,000 to 4,000 per day. And maybe we'll even touch base on what the plans moving forward are, how we see the store progressing, how much money it could possibly make, where we're going with it, and stuff like that. So please bring a warm welcome to Duncan on this video. He's been on my channel a couple times before, but he basically manages my entire agency. He's kind of like the brains and the button clicking behind everything that you see us do. And he's generated millions and millions of dollars for our clients. He's also coached most of the ad buyers that we have on our team. So Duncan is a beast. Super excited to bring him to the channel again. And yeah, hopefully this video continues to bring more valuable your way. Right, so we got Duncan on the phone now. Look at him looking absolutely beautiful and cute like he always does. But I was looking at the scaling graph, and like I said, you were the one that is, basically in charge of launching this product and scaling it. So I wanted to bring you in on this video because I feel like you could give a better perspective than I could because you were in the ad account more. But what I thought was really interesting was literally like 3 days after you initially launched it, you were already at $1,000 per day. If you look at the scaling graph, and you kind of maintain like 1 to 1.5K per day for like 2 weeks. Which is pretty cool. And I don't know if you were delaying the scale or if you were just trying to maintain. I don't really know what was going on. So if you could talk a little bit about, what happened after the initial test, because we kind of just talked about that, and, why you maintained 1,000 to 1,500 per day for 2 weeks. Like what happened during that phase?
Yeah. So basically, the initial testing process that we talked about, or you talked about, is what we kept during that whole period. So if campaigns and ad groups didn't do well, we would kill them. We would duplicate what did do well, change the interest, and kind of just keep it level. During that period, we also tested a lot of creative. So when we launched this product, we had over 20 creatives to test. So we'd go through every day, test one of them, the same strategy of our initial launch, and just see what worked. If it didn't work, we'd cut it. If it did work, we'd keep it. And a lot of those didn't work. It's rare for all 20 creatives to do well. So I think in the end, we had like 6 to 8 that did really well. And that's what we found during that period is we were able to maintain that level of revenue. And then once we found those creatives, you can see where we scaled up. So we were able to, find what worked and then move into a different strategy from there.
Okay. So you were mostly like after you did the initial test campaign and it worked pretty well, you were mostly just scaling horizontally with new ad groups in the original campaign, and you were doing like, let's say, a new creative or a new interest or stuff around those lines. And then as you were finding new winning ad groups and stuff, you were turning off the bad ones. So it kind of maintained, but you were really laying the foundation and you weren't really scaling vertically during that 2-week period.
Yeah, so everything was horizontal. So same budgets, that kind of hybrid method where it was no interest with some interest mixed in. And how we approached it was if interest did well on a certain creative, we'd obviously duplicate and do more interest. If no interest did well, we duplicate and do more no interest. So it allowed us to see if the creative was going to drive the traffic or the interest plus the creative was going to drive the traffic, and kind of decide from there. So when you see the spike in revenue, that's where we started implementing vertical scaling. So changing budgets and going from there.
Right. So at that point, which I'll kind of show on the screen what the scaling chart looks like, just to remind you guys, it was around December 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, where it really skyrocketed, like from $1,500 a day to over $4,000 per day. So when you were in that stage and I would assume had a bunch of winning ad groups, a bunch of different creatives, and you kind of picked out, what performed the best out of those. What was the exact maneuver that you made to take, like, let's say a winning ad group and actually scale it vertically? Like, did you double the budget? Did you increase the budget? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, so since we have that initial lowest cost strategy, we know it works. It's working well at that budget. We moved into manual bids. So now we have a creative that works. We have an interest or no interest that works, an audience that works. So we wanted to mess with bidding. So we went into manual bidding, started testing bids from break even down. And that's where you can see the spike in budget because we went from spending, $100 per campaign to a few $100s per campaign multiple times. And that's where we started to find budgets that worked. So that first day or so past 1K, 1.4K is where we saw, okay, these budgets are the ones to go with. Let's go ahead and scale these from here. So the days coming up to that where we hit that 4K day, leveled out at about a 3K day, is where we found winning budgets, which for this product was somewhere about $8 to $12. and then just started replicating those. So we would duplicate what worked in those budgets. Instead of running one at $12, we'd run three, and then we'd run three at $11, $10, etc., just to see how it
You're talking about budgets or the bid?
I'm sorry, bid. Yeah, the bid.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were basically testing different manual bids and what I would assume is higher budgets to see what would spend and what wouldn't spend and what would get the best results.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So it seems like a pretty, basic version of scaling, which if you've seen any of my videos on scaling on TikTok, like my ebook or any other trainings that I've done, you'll know that, I focus a lot on scaling horizontally before going vertical. Seems like you kind of just did like a play by the book type of scale with this store, and it worked out pretty well. Now that we covered pretty much how you got to 4K a day, we can see that it kind of dropped off a little bit, and some time has passed since we took those screenshots and started making this video. So what are the plans moving forward? Like, what kind of happened after the 4K day, and then where do you see the store going in the future, and what kind of strategies are you looking to implement like over the next couple of weeks, and how do you think it's going to work out?
Yeah, so unfortunately we went pretty unprofitable right after this. So what happened was Christmas came around. Some of those campaigns that we had running just didn't perform, and we ended up shutting off a lot of the ads. We left retargeting running and a few things, and we dropped the revenue down. So right now, or I guess during that period, we were operating at like $800 a day in revenue. Going forward, right after Christmas, we ramped back up. We're back up to about $1,200 to $1,500 a day. And yesterday we actually implemented 4 new creatives. So we wanted to test a new angle. A lot of our creatives were around like the summertime, hanging out with your friends, vacation niche, kind of like angle. And we moved it towards more like wintertime, people wearing jackets. I know that sounds kind of strange, but during this time of year, it works well. Yeah, just a different vibe to the creatives. So we'll know how they're doing later on this week, probably. So far today, we're at like $1,200 and it's 1 PM. So it's definitely ramping back up now.
Cool. So after Christmas, you kind of lost profitability a lot. And I think you said something about actually turning off the ads on Christmas.
Yeah, we turned off we turned off everything.
Which, I mean, in my experience with e-com, I think that's a pretty dumb thing to do. But like, why the hell did you do that, bro? Because I would shoot myself if I did that. But what happened?
It was honestly more of an experience. I mean, an experiment to see what happened. But we were unprofitable. We were breaking even, and it was kind of that thing where we could make the call. It was either keep it running, break even, or shut it off and see what happens when we turn it back on. And it has been panning out so far. Definitely not the best idea, but it was a good experiment.
Yeah. It seems like after you turn everything back on, a couple of days after Christmas, you pretty much got back to 1,000 per day. Yeah, pretty much instantly. And now it's been a little bit inconsistent, but it kind of seems like you're transitioning back into the scaling horizontally phase. I don't know, maybe you'll be able to find some new winning creatives or ad groups or bids or whatever, and scale it back to that 4K a day point. I think it would be really interesting if maybe in a month or two, once you kind of figure out the strategies, and maybe we'll see where this store goes, and we'll do like a follow-up video on what happened with it.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll follow back up, see where it goes, see what we have for revenue. Maybe
next time we talk about it on this channel, it'll be a 6-figure store.
Could be.
Because if you're doing 3-4K a day for a month, it's $100,000 in sales. So super excited to see where this brings us. I'm glad that you could have came on here, gave your perspectives, shared the strategies that you used to do this. We will forever bow down to Duncan as the king of what we do. So everybody in the comments, say thanks for having Duncan on the channel. Really, really appreciate it. And super excited to be bringing new scaling strategies to you guys, moving forward. So we'll see you later, Duncan.
Awesome. See ya.
All right, guys, so that was the case study. I'm super excited, and I want to bring more case studies like this where we look at like real examples, and we're not just talking about strategies, where we can actually go behind the scenes, see what really happens out there in the field, and look at the mistakes that happen and how we overcome them, as a team. And I would love to bring more of my team members in here as well to talk about the kind of strategies that they experiment with. Now, this store was more of an experimental store. Like, a lot of the strategies that were used were new, and we kind of used it as an opportunity to try a lot of new things, to kind of lay groundwork for a lot of the other stores that we work on. So it was definitely interesting seeing how it unfolded, especially with the whole Christmas fiasco. But if you want to see more videos like this, leave a comment in the description. Let me know. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It also lets me know that you like videos like this and motivates me to make more case studies and stuff. So if you want to see more case studies, make sure you leave a like. Subscribe if you want more content like this. And if you have any other questions, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. My username is @NoahDBrewer. I try to get back to every single DM as soon as possible. Thanks for dealing with my sickness and my raspy voice. But as for this video, this is Noah Brewer, and I'm out. Peace.